So it looks at this point that we are a quorum. So I will call the meeting to order. And welcome all. Glad you made it through the town meeting.
Seems like yesterday.
I love it.
I got sunburned.
Seems like the whole weekend for me.
Yes.
Very, very nicely said, Mary.
Smart.
And thank you all for your participation yesterday, and also in all your help and participation leading up to the annual town meeting. And very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I didn't recognize you in your baseball cap.
I felt funny just starting off with it, but once Matt Rowland decided he needed to put one on to protect the top of his head, I was okay with putting mine on too.
Oh, yes. All right, let's move along to number 2, public comment. We do have a written correspondence that was via email that was addressed to the committee a few weeks ago, but we hadn't met since then. And I guess, Mary, you said you had a copy of it. I guess it would be in order to have that read. Is that right, Ed?
You could, if that's your wish, yes.
As opposed to what?
Has that been your practice to read them?
When we have received it addressed to the committee.
Okay, yes, then I would go ahead.
All right. Mary, would you mind reading it?
Read it. This is an email from the superintendent. It is dated May 25th. It was sent approximately at 4:08 p.m. to the FinCom. He begins, I understand that you voted to disapprove the replacing a highway truck because my plan was to rotate my current administrative vehicle into service as a utility truck and utilize the brand new replacement of this light utility truck as an administrative vehicle in hopes of keeping the miles low and hopefully last longer. I do not understand the logic of your decision, nor why of the 3 public safety departments, highway seems to be the one relegated to keeping our vehicles for decades and holding them together with duct tape and baling twine. I am resending you my capital replacement plan and vehicle age inventory so you can see that we are not making progress by falling farther behind on replacing vehicles that have the responsibility of ensuring public safety. If the highway superintendent driving a new vehicle is what is holding you back from recommending this go forward at town meeting, then the highway superintendent will continue to drive the rusty, dented, 12-year-old F-350, and we can put a brand new vehicle into our everyday utility capacity. I also understand that the committee does not agree with taking an administrative truck home. I am on call 24/7, just like the police chief, the fire chief, and water and superintendent, all of whom take home town vehicles as allowed by policy, and the town funded new administrative vehicles for both the water department and fire chief as recently as 2019. I have attached both a comparison of current department head vehicles as well as long-standing town vehicle policies for your review. To my knowledge, these policies have never been revoked by the select board. I would be happy to discuss further and wish that someone had expressed these concerns during the time which I was attending your meeting instead of after I had left. Thanks.
So I would say that the letter at this point is so noted. I think the contents of the letter, correct me if I'm wrong, are moot at this point, given the fact that the purchase was approved at the town meeting.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add just one thing. I think that the impression was that we basically didn't want to approve it because of, the personal use, et cetera. That wasn't the primary
Correct.
concern. Our concern was we're trying to save as much money as possible. We were looking at these capitals as compelling needs and viewing if this vehicle was going to be used primarily as the administrative vehicle for the department head, then when you're looking at a budget that would be a struggle for the school and for the municipal agencies, we didn't feel it was in the best interest of the town. So I just wanted that to be clarified.
Yep. Agree. Any other comments?
No.
Can I make one, please?
Certainly.
I hope you do all realize that our highway superintendent is not strictly an administrative position, but that highway superintendent is out in the field doing work, plowing roads and what have you. So,
No, poor choice of words then. It was our concern, my primary concern, that if the override fails, so we have struggling municipal agencies, we have positions lost at the school, and then we have a vehicle being used primarily by a department head. He specifically indicated it wasn't going to be, available for sign out unless there was, a priority for it. Otherwise, that's his vehicle. He said nobody touches his vehicle. The concept, what my position was, then it would be viewed as I have a department head who has a brand new vehicle, yet we let people go, or we furlough people, or we reduce their hours. Where are the town's priorities? That's where I was coming from. Not, diminishing his capacity as a department head, and certainly not saying that he's less than any of the other department heads. They got their new vehicles because they weren't facing an override. That's the end. I have nothing else to say.
No. So noted. Do we have any oral comment for any other attendees? I don't see anybody else waiting. There being none, let's move along to the myriad of minutes.
someone's been very busy.
I had to, it bothers me when we're behind. It does. It's one of those pet peeves of mine.
Well, you certainly made up for it. Kudos again.
We're up to date.
I guess we need to take them in order, and unfortunately I don't have that. Do you have the list there, Mary?
Yes, I do.
Okay, could you just read them off?
Certainly. It's the meeting minutes from April 20th, 2021, April 26th, 2021, April 27, 2021, April 29, 2021, May 4th, 2021, May 6th, 2021, May 10th, 2021, and May 24th, 2021.
In and of itself, the 24th was an effort, needless to say. So I would go through initially and ask for approval of each one. Can I hear a motion to approve the April 20 minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the April 21.
I'll second. In favor? Barbara?
Yes.
Jen, yes.
Mary, aye. And Rachel has joined.
Rachel,
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for April 26 minutes.
I'll second.
We need a motion. I just said I'd entertain a motion.
Oh.
Do you want to move it?
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Barbara. Or second?
I second.
Second by Rachel. Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rachel,
Barbara, yes.
Mary, I.
And I. April 27 minutes.
I make a motion to approve the April 27th minutes.
Moved by Rachel,
I'll second.
second by Barbara. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Roll.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary?
Mary, I.
Okay. And I. April 29. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of April 29.
Moved by Rachel,
Second.
second by Barbara. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Roll.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
And I. Motion to accept the minutes of the May 4 meeting. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the May 4 minutes.
Moved
I
by Rachel,
second.
second by Barbara. All in favor? Roll.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
And I. Entertain a motion for the minutes of May 6.
Hello?
Oops. I make a motion to accept the minutes of May 6.
Moved by Rachel,
I second.
second by Mary. All in favor? Roll call.
Rachel, I.
Aye, Barbara. Barbara.
Mary, I.
And I. Entertain a motion for the May 10 minutes.
I make a motion to accept the May 10 minutes.
I second the motion.
Second by Barbara. All in favor? Roll call.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
And I. And last but not least, entertain a motion for the May 24 minutes.
I make a motion to accept the May 24 minutes.
Moved by Rachel,
I'll second.
second by Barbara. All in favor? Roll call.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
And I. All right. Once again, thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. We're up to date. Yay.
Okay. Number 4, review of the FY21 expenditures and revenues. I believe we just received expenditures, which are from the period July 1st, 2020 to June 10th, 2021. Comments, questions? Anyone?
I do have a question for Ed.
Yep.
Since we're like we're actually 20 days out from the end of the fiscal year. So does the town have an end of year purchasing policy or even informal policy?
As far as what?
When looking at some of the expense lines, some of them have like only expense 40%, et cetera. So my question basically is, can they go ahead and fully expend all the remaining dollars, or does the town look to see
Honey,
they can consolidate some of the dollars for a larger purchase for the town purpose versus a department? So do they, in essence, does the individual departments, if they have a lot of funds available to them, can they go ahead and spend it how they choose to spend it for their departments? Or does the town actually look at those expenses since we're 20 days out from the end of the fiscal year?
They could, but we also take a look at each department, because you may have some departments that may have, shall we say, a good amount of funds left in one account, but be depleted or negative in another. And those are what we look at first to balance any shall we say, negatives as far as that goes. We try to take it from the department that has the deficit spending first, and then we reach out from there.
So, but I was looking, like, say if we're at the conservation
Yeah.
expenses, they have like $3,100 left on that expense line. And I know further down, we're going to be talking about the transfers into that account. So
Well,
do they go ahead and then spend those dollars, or do they already have a plan and they've shared that with you, so you know how they're going to use those?
in many cases, a decent amount, or in some cases, all of that may be already encumbered and goods may be already ordered. It's just that we have not received the invoices. But yes, we go over that.
Not showing here. Okay. And then the only last question I have, Ken, if I can ask, it's, well, I actually have two more. On page 2, under the education,
Okay.
any excess funds or residual funds that are left in any of those lines, do they revert back to the school? Primarily, I'm interested in your school, or what funds do come back to the town? Or are there any funds that come back into the town general fund, if you will?
From the school, you mean?
Yeah,
From
most
education, from-
most of these would probably stay with the school, and I forget what they actually call it. I'll have to go back and look, but they can generate. It's not free cash, but I can't remember the term.
It's called excess and deficit, and I think they can retain up to 5%.
Correct. Yeah.
5%. So
Yeah.
the local school transportation looks as though there's almost 92,000 there. Since when we were talking about the fiscal year 22 budget, we're saying that if there is a shortfall on that local school transportation, it's a municipal deficit.
Correct.
School.
That line item we own.
Does it, when there's an excess, is that our funds, or does it go back to the school?
If there was an excess at the end of the year, that would be one of the accounts that would come back to us. But
Okay.
like I say, I'm sure that they have a lot of invoices that are still left from that.
I was just curious as to, looking at those amounts, if there's anything that's coming back into our general fund versus the school having the use of it, at the end of the fiscal year. Okay. And then one final question, if I may. On page 12, it's a capital request again.
Yeah.
It's that highway, I know we talked about that at our last meeting, the highway plow capital funds. It's showing there's a balance of 35,000. Now, I know you said that that's borrowing, so it's not capital stabilization funds. But my question is the truck that we ordered complete, or is this 35,000 another piece that we're waiting, for?
I'm trying to find the 35,000 here.
It's the highway plow. It's the third one from the bottom.
305,422.
I'd have to go back and take a look, and that one could be just the fact that we actually issued the bond for that, so there may have been some proceeds from one issuance that are actually going to pay what would have been the short-term borrowing on that. But I'll take a look. I'll take a look and let you know, Mary.
Okay, thank you. But so if I understand correctly, I know we borrowed it. So if it is, I don't want to say excess, but remaining dollars, would they go back into the general fund that we have used, or what happens to that? Is it
No.
Pay off the loan?
No. Theoretically, and I'm just going to throw this out, is a municipality bonds for, I'm going to use some outrageous numbers, $50 million to build a small school or some type of building. It authorizes the $50 million. For whatever reason, the actual cost comes in at like 45 million. Well, you never spent that 45 million, you borrowed it. However, what it means is one of two things, is there would be $5 million left on that bond authorization. So you can do two things with that. You could go back at a future town meeting and say, geez, we'd like to put an addition on this other building. It's a like use because the useful life and what you're using for is similar, which is one of the qualifications. So you could actually go back and vote to use what's left, that $5 million that's left for this other project. The other thing you could do with it is you could, at a future town meeting, say, we don't see anything of a like use that's coming up the next 2, 3, 4 years. We're going to put an article on to rescind that, what's left of, in this case, the $5 million bond authorization. So those are the two pieces.
Okay. So do the balance of the funds remain here on this sheet, or does it go somewhere else?
I don't think there's any balance here, to be honest with you. I think it's just how it was short-term borrowed and then permanently borrowed, but I will go back and check.
Okay.
But I mean, theoretically, if, you know, it really only cost us $225,000, then we'd have some excess bond authorization there to deal with. I mean, conversely, same thing in a straight appropriation where you had funds, you'd be right. You'd at that particular point in time, you would have actually spent $224,785, and you'd have $35,000 left. And if that project, and in this case, that purchase is done, that funding should be, takes a letter from the department head saying we're done with this, then that $35,000 in this particular case, because it was a capital project, should revert to capital stabilization.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
Yes, I'm all set. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I have a few, but I'll hold those until the end. Anybody else?
No.
No? And I guess I have a general question, and we touched on this, I guess, but I just want to make sure I understand it.
Sure.
In these, any of these line items, and the expense reports for the departments or what have you.
Yep.
I mean, if we're looking at a period that's almost a full 12 months,
Yeah.
then, you know, and assuming, you know, we get another payroll or something like that, but excesses in these accounts, what happens after June 30 or up as of June 30 and then after June 30?
Well, actually I think it's July 10th, funding is available to be transferred from one department to another to cover deficits.
From one department to another?
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what you're seeing in those departmental transfer sheets that I've sent you and asked you to act on. In some cases, it's within a department, but can also be from one department to another. So you've got that. I'm about to send out the encumbrance letter to all the department heads, because like I say, there may be goods or contracts they've entered into that they have not received the invoices from, so they have to send that information back to the accounting department so that can be booked. Now, then theoretically, after June 30th, when all that has taken place, is what happens when the books for fiscal year 21 close, is that part of that process will be the accountant will send information to the Department of Local Services, both on revenues and expenditures, and that calculation the Department of Local Services will do, they'll look at excess revenues or deficit revenues as compared to what was forecast for the year, and then funds which were not spent in the budget. And they will also take into account any liabilities that the town still has to pay. And those calculations are what generate free cash, which was, as you saw, the starting point was, I think, $232,000 that we basically broke down and appropriated it or transferred into the capital stabilization fund, the operating stabilization fund, the OPEB, and that leaves 25% of the balance of free cash if you just use those percentages as minimum for other one-time purchases.
So if I heard you correctly, and I'm not going to mention departments by name, I'll just say Department A and Department B. If Department A comes in with a surplus, those funds can be transferred to Department B to cover any deficiency that they might have. And whose discretion is that?
That would be the discretion, shall we say, of the receiving and sending department, and those transfers have to be approved by the finance committee and the select board. Probably one of the prime candidates every year for what I will call an inter-department transfer is, depending on the amount, but generally if you have a snow and ice deficit in the highway department, the ideal thing is to actually take care of it and transfer the funds in during that fiscal year, whether it's from the highway department or for another department, because otherwise you have to put it on your recap and raise it in the following fiscal year. So, I've worked in some bigger communities where that deficit has been $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 at the end of a fiscal year. And if you aren't able to transfer funds or pay it off during the fiscal year it is actually generated in, it actually means whatever deficit you got of 100, 200, 300,000 actually goes on starts off on your taxes for the following fiscal year. So you basically start off, even if you had a $0 budget for the following fiscal year, $100, $200, or $300,000 in the hole.
Could you send a copy of that letter to us or email us one so we could keep that straight in our heads that you're going to send to the departments?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Because actually theoretically of, I think all of the, and I haven't looked, but I think it's something like the $20 you have left in the finance committee account, if you've actually expended it on something else that I'm not aware of, that would be one of those things that you'd want to say, oh geez, we ordered $20 worth of supplies, but we haven't got the invoice yet. So we want to uncover that 20, the money for that invoice. So you actually qualify as receiving a letter for it.
All right.
So can a department between June 30th and July 10th make purchases that they ordinarily make?
No, they have to have made the purchases before June 30th.
Okay.
And again, at that point in time, it would just be, whether it was May 15th or June 25th, I've ordered these goods. However, I have not received, or I entered into this contract to receive these services. However, I have not received the invoice for these as of yet.
Okay. So the bottom line, pardon the play on words, is that a poor budgeter gets the benefit of a good budgeter.
Not necessarily so. No, I mean, throughout the year, we work with our department heads to make sure that, okay, if they're going to expend more funds than they had budgeted, number one, why? And number two, is it basically, shall we say, something unforeseen, which it usually is. And then, like I said, we work with those department heads either to take care of that or cover that, either through transfer in their own department or try to keep an eye on it and take care of it from, somewhere else at the end of the year. But we look to try to earmark those particular issues.
So they do, in essence, get critiqued for their performance.
They do. I'm also the one that will sit here and look you straight in the eyes and say, when it's myself, the select board, finance committee, or whatever, takes a look at a department's submitted request budget, and then due to, shall we say, revenue parameters says, okay, well, we can't do that, therefore reducing this particular line item in your budget, this particular line item in your budget, and that particular line item in your budget, to be able to make ends meet and have a balanced budget. That's somewhat out of that department head's control. They still have to try to make ends meet with that, but in some cases, as you've seen with the highway department machinery account, as far as the repairs go, just because due to the aging fleet and whatever, when we reduce that or don't meet what the department head's request is for the dollar amount for the appropriation for the following year, there's a darn good chance that they're going to have to exceed that particular line item budget just to keep services flowing.
Okay. If we could go back to the sheets for a moment. Because I've yellow lined, a lot of those line items, and I'm not going to go over each one of them, but a lot of those line items that have, remaining funds that exceed, what their experience has been, should be.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm back to page 1 now. I'm going to highlight a couple of these items that we've talked about in the past, and it doesn't appear that there's been any resolution. The first on page 1, the gas and electric for the town hall. This keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, that means that Regina and I are going to have to go back through and do all the transfers out of that for both the net metering credits and the cow power for a good part of the fiscal year, and put it into the regular utility accounts of the accounts that it needs to be charged to.
So you don't have a concern that those are going to be all appropriated? And there's no deficiency there?
No, I don't at this point.
You don't have a concern?
I do not have a concern on that one.
Okay. Page 2, I guess I'm just curious as to police department wages, educational incentive, police department expenses are all significantly under-expensed. And you know what? And again, we've only got 3 weeks left in the month. Is there a lot of stuff that's pending?
Oh, again, you don't know at what rates and what's going to happen as far as overtime and what have you. But I mean, just looking at police department wages, that's probably maybe about 6% off. So, I mean, yeah. So in particular, I don't think that's a lot, to be honest with you. Because like I say, you've got overtime wages, there's only $8,600 left in there. You know, by the end of the fiscal year, that one may go negative, and we're going to have to transfer in funds from police department wages to cover that.
Okay, but how many payrolls you got left in the month?
I think it's 1.5.
Okay. Page 3, street lighting account. We ever get a handle on that?
I'm still working on that one. That one I'm a little bit concerned about.
Okay, you think maybe there were some street lights that weren't shut off?
Yeah, that's a good possibility. I got to go through all that paperwork just to make sure.
Let's see. Page 7. COVID wages and expenses.
COVID wages and expenses should always show a negative. That's right. The expenditures we're using towards that grant. So I am not concerned about that.
Okay, so there's no allocation or anything that that has to be done with, because that's a general line item. Doesn't it get broken out into much more finite processing, if you will?
It does when I do the reporting on it, yes.
Okay.
But of that, basically I'll round it to $440,000. We were actually approved for, I think it's $532,000.
Okay, but we don't know who the recipients of those dollars are, right?
I do when I do reports, yes.
And you have until the end of December to spend the balance, right, Ed?
Correct.
So that'll roll, whatever is left will roll into the next fiscal year.
Correct.
So Ed, is the offset for that credit interspersed between these expenses elsewhere?
Yes.
Let's see. All set on that, Rachel?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Page 9, police outside detail.
Yeah, this is one that usually lags behind by a couple of months because we pay on the payroll schedule when the officer works the detail, and then we have to wait for the contractor to send those payments to us. So the chief does keep a pretty good eye on that one.
Okay.
So Ed, how do you handle that? Is it an adjusting entry that's done at year end by the auditors, or do you keep that as do you put that as an accrual? I mean, do we do accrual accounting?
It would be noted. So, you know, say whether that particular fund had a positive balance or a negative balance at the year end, that would be the starting balance for the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And right now the revenues, which the payments of these have only been entered through all of March, but just part of April. But they've only been recorded through the end of, or posted through the end of March. So you've got a little lag time in what's come in there too.
Revenues have been posted through March.
Revenues have been posted through the end of March, correct.
Well, I was going to ask a question about the account, but I'll wait for that to come up on the agenda as relates to that March postings. Okay, I guess that's, as I said, I had a lot of yellow items, but those were the orange items that I had, so I'm all set, I guess.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Good questions.
Any other questions or comments about that item number 4? If not, number 5, department requests. Are there any?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And generally, when you don't have a, shall we say, a reserve account, you're not going to see department head requests during the year. When you do have a reserve account and they've had some unforeseen expenses or whatever, that's when you will see the requests come from the departments.
Okay. All right. Number 6, departmental transfers. Any questions there?
I think we're going to actually have to take an action, Ken. On
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because these require both the approval of the Finance Committee and the Select Board.
All right. So I guess then we would, it probably makes sense for us to entertain a motion to approve them and then have discussion.
I make a motion to approve the proposed budget transfers as indicated on the schedule submitted by Ed.
All right, moved by Rachel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Barbara.
Now, is that for the number one budget transfers I sent for you, or both the number one and number two?
I apologize. I have item number 1.
All right, so you didn't get, all right, so so the motion is for item number 1, moved and seconded by Barbara.
Yeah, in the amount of $44,612.68.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Questions, comments?
Question.
Yes.
On the overdrawn account for the highway machinery maintenance expense, it's $21,043.32. The expense report that the latest one that we received shows the account in the negative for $156.62. My question is this work to be done or work that has been done? Is it one job, multiple jobs?
This is work that's already been done, but one of the issues here is really departments aren't supposed to be allowed to underspend. So in this particular case, these charges have been charged to other accounts that had money. So it means that we're actually going to have to do double reversing entries. We're going to have to take them out of the accounts that they were charged to and put them back into the highway machinery account and make the transfer.
That was going to be my second question, because I recall that the superintendent had sent an email indicating that he had overspent $1,700 and had charged it to another account, and he was going to have a journal entry done at the end of the fiscal year. So
yes.
That $1,700 included in that $21,000?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
This caught him up as to probably 2 weeks ago.
And these are multiple vehicles, right? It's not just like one big vehicle?
Remember the 10-year capital plan that he had sent to you with that? That's got his vehicles on it. So yes, I can't tell you the exact amount of vehicles, but oh yeah, they've probably got 10 or 12 at least, and it might be more than that, because they've got specialized vehicles like the loader and the backhoe, and let's say, I don't think, trying to remember if we've actually got a catch basin cleaner or not, but then we have all the regular dump and plow trucks and other things. So yes.
The reason I was asking is because I recall the water department, when they came and they told us about their box truck, and that repair was going to be $15,000 or up to $20,000 to repair one vehicle. So that's why I was asking if there's multiple, if it's just one. Okay.
Exactly. And I mean, just as an example, and please don't take this the wrong way, but that administrative vehicle that the highway superintendent drives, we actually had to put about almost $8,000 in it probably about 3 months ago, because there was some serious problems with the engine, but just to keep it going. So
yeah, he told us he got a new engine in it.
Got a new engine?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Ed, I just have a question as to why, in your estimation, does the highway wages account have the surplus available to transfer?
The biggest reason is that they have currently a mechanic position vacancy, an equipment operator position vacancy, and for probably about 4 or 5 months they had the administrative assistant position vacancy.
Okay. So the mechanic, this is a resident mechanic who takes care of things like engines that go astray?
Correct.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, why hasn't the position been filled?
There seems to be a very large demand for CDL licensed drivers right now. I can tell you there's a local construction company right down here on College Highway that actually just took out a big billboard ad on Route 20 in Westfield trying to get help. So we have had issues with finding the qualified candidates, because you're not just looking for a person, you're looking for someone that's got the CDL license and also hydraulic licenses. And that goes for both the equipment operator, and it also goes for the mechanic. We look to hire a mechanic that's got those, not only a mechanic, but also has those other licenses so they can basically drive the same equipment.
So if there were a qualified individual and he was looking at,
He or she.
yeah, was looking at employment with the town as opposed to employment with this contractor, are we competitive?
That's something I'd have to look at again. I mean, I will be honest with you, or as honest as I can, is that was one of the things we had tried to look at with the last Highway Department union contract, and tried to bring those positions up into a, shall we say, par or closer to a par with what the marketplace was at the time.
Yeah.
But like I say, it seems that along with COVID, that there seems to be a higher demand for these type of positions right now. So it's something, as we go into this next generation of union contracts, we're going to have to take a closer look at to see, okay, are we really in the ballpark, or are we way off again?
Okay. I guess I have a question about how does conservation expense relate to unemployment compensation? That's item F.
I sent another number 1 that does not have that particular transfer on there.
Oh, that's probably the one that came in the zip that I couldn't print.
Yeah, this one should have A, B, C, D, E, G, and H on it for number 1.
So there's no F?
There is no F.
Okay.
That's why this one only it should total $44,612.68.
Okay, so I'm looking at the wrong one. All right, so what happened with that conservation? Was that in the other one?
You'll find it in number 2.
No, I see it. Okay. Sorry.
Quite all right.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yep, I have 2 more questions, if I may.
Yes.
The town accountant expenses, the $22,492.09, is that going to cover the entire employment period, Ed?
I might have to make one other small transfer because I was looking at the invoices we already had, and they vary. It's not like a regular payroll where it's the same exact dollar amount each week. So I tried to interpolate it as best I could, but I might have to make another small transfer.
It's not the same charge every week? Because
No, because It isn't always 24 hours a week. Sometimes it's a little bit less, so.
And then the last question I have is on the library maintenance. We're looking for a money move of $405, but the current balance, as of 10 June, shows it's $1,231 in the red. So why are we only moving $405 at this time?
This is a particular part of that. When our custodian was out on leave, we had to hire a vendor. So I had this earmarked for a while until we got into May and June and could do the transfers. So the $405 is just the dollar amount for what we had to pay out of the library maintenance expense account rather than charge for the vendor, rather than having a custodian here and paying out of the payroll account. So
and there's going to be another request then for another funds transfer for the $800 if they're in a shortfall for that line?
Yeah, sometimes I'm very linear and think on one little tunnel vision. So
okay, all right, that's it for me. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. So there being no further discussion, call for a vote on the motion, which is for $44,612.68. Roll call.
Rachel, I.
Barbara's muted.
Barbara?
Barbara, aye, sorry.
Mary, aye.
And Ken, aye. All right. Then we have the second item, item 2, in the amount of $5,117.49. Is there a motion?
I actually don't have, I can't find that one. I apologize.
That came in yesterday. Whether that's any help.
Yes, I don't have anything. The
No.
only thing I received was from June 12th.
I'm looking at this email now. I just noticed that it was sent to Mary and to me.
Correct, because I had asked if you would add it to this one for this meeting.
Okay. All right. Well,
Do you want me to bring it up on the screen? Do we need to do that?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
yeah, why don't we do that?
It'd be better than me reading it off, I think.
Thank you. So this involves that replacement, if you will, of that 5,000 Conservation Commission expense.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that occurred because we had a butter to the Manhan Meadow Sanctuary question the safety of 3 trees that were hanging over their property.
Okay.
And we asked them to get a certified arborist opinion on them. And the certified arborist came back and said, yes, indeed, those were at risk of falling and hitting that resident's home. So the Conservation Commission, under my advice, because of the risk, removed those 3 trees.
So that would have been the tree warden then.
No, because these were not.
So somebody else did it?
Yeah, the same vendor the tree warden would use, K&J, is the one that removed these, but it was not a determination of the tree warden because these were not public shade trees. They were not in the public way.
Right. Okay, so that being the case, can we didn't get a motion, did we, Mary?
No, we do not have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the proposed budget transfer number 2 in the amount of $5,117.49.
Okay, moved by Rachel, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Barbara. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion, questions, comments? If not, we'll put it to a vote. Roll call.
Rachel, I.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, aye.
Ken, aye. Okay,
Thank you, and I'll get these to you for your signature, Ken.
okay. Thank you. Let's see. All right, item 6 is complete. Item 7, any PRFs?
Did not receive any.
All right. Old business, FinCom bylaw proposed revisions.
Is that something you want me to share on the screen? Ken?
Sure, that'd be fine. Thank you. And part of my papers being blown away yesterday. Never get reorganized.
Yeah, I was so happy at the beginning of the meeting that the winds were nice and calm and whatever, but that certainly changed about halfway through it.
Yes, it did. Much to my chagrin.
And much to all of us. I was chasing some of mine too.
All right. So this was, did you update this, Mary?
Excuse me, this is revision 1.
Yep.
From our last meeting that it occurred on, when was the last? Our April 12th, 2021 meeting. We have gone through, and all the items that are highlighted in blue are what we agreed to for the changes. The area that still had some questions was section 6. But I believe you wanted to go back over because you want to make sure that we've got this all done correctly.
Right.
Do you want me to go back up and start by each section?
Please. Yep.
Section 1, the proposed change.
Okay. Any questions there? All right.
Section 2, the proposed changes for Section 2.
What was the 3? Why did we, was there not a 3 in there before?
There was
I
not-
believe it was staggered terms that was changed.
I thought the changes are in green, right? Or blue or whatever you want to call it, or
The new additions or changes are in blue.
blue. Okay. So it just didn't have a 3 in parens before, is that right?
If you see, this was the Section 2.
Oh, and that's the change. Okay. Yep. Yep. All right.
Section 2.
Yep.
And then the proposed change is broken down into a couple of paragraphs, if you will.
Yep. Okay. Occurs or by finance committee.
Rita.
Okay. Any questions, comments there?
No.
Okay.
3. Here was the proposed, and we modified the section in blue.
Okay. Comments?
No.
Sweet. Okay.
Section 4. Deleting personal change forms since we no longer see those.
Okay. All right.
Section 5. Deleted, transmitted, we're just saying it's communicated to the select board without
Right.
identifying the manner of the communication.
Right. Right.
Section 6 was the question marked area.
Question marked in what regard? We didn't.
Well, I believe you had, I believe you were of the position that we, the finance committee, would actually play a part in the mid-year budget reviews.
Yep.
And some of the comments were, well, it's difficult to do that given the expense reports that we received does not include commitments, encumbered funds. So it would be difficult for us to see where are the excess funds, because that what's shown as available may or may not be a true representation of the funds. So, but you believe that we should play a part in that. So that's the area of discussion is this more of a responsibility of the town accountant versus the finance committee?
Well, that's good. That's a good question. I guess the town accountant, I guess it would be the responsibility of the town accountant with the oversight of the finance committee.
I would agree that the town accountant sees the invoices, has the day-to-day interaction with the department head, so has a better feel for what the status is of the funds, and the responsibility to brief both the finance committee and the select board of the business. Not we taking the lead with the departments, because we don't have that information readily available to us.
Right. So I guess then the question becomes, does this particular, the contents of this particular item, are they included in the responsibilities of the town accountant? So that we could refer to that responsibility with our oversight responsibility of the accountant's responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Francine, I never welcomed you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Does this, you concur with that?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
It makes sense that the town accountant would come to the finance committee with that information rather than putting you through meetings with department heads or accepting reports from department heads.
Have the bylaws for the town accountant been recently modified? Are they among the most recent modifications, or is that to be done?
We don't have a bylaw for the town accountant. It would be in their job description. And I don't know if, in fact, what it is you're asking, if it is part of their job description. Ed, do you know?
I would have to look at the job description.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have.
I think it's perfectly logical what you're saying.
Okay. All right. So we would have to reword.
Mhm.
We'd have to reword that to that effect.
Okay.
You don't have any prospects, right?
But would we have to? Because this is talking about the duties and responsibilities of the finance committee. Would we have to address the town accountant's responsibilities? And
No. I think, but it would be the finance committee's responsibility. I think what I had said was it would be the finance committee's responsibility to oversee the performance of that by the town accountant.
And get an update on whatever timeline you think
Right.
works best.
Right.
Do you want me to take a shot at rewording this? Because these were the changes that
Sure.
you folks made that I incorporated into the text that we wrote. So I can play with the words here and get it back to you.
Okay. So it will address the fact that the responsibility or that the performance is going to be the town accountants and the oversight is going to be the
Right.
finance committees.
Right.
And I guess the dates, if they're performable, if you will,
Mhm.
would still apply.
Does that make sense to you? It's pretty far along in the fiscal year already,
Right.
but I mean, but still, you'd have a quarter left, at least.
Right. Well, under normal circumstances, Ed, is the town accountant, is that timeline performable, if you will, by the town accountant in a normal situation?
I'm gonna let Ed answer that. I don't know what normal is anymore.
I would assume they'd have the figures available.
Yeah, it should be fair.
Okay. All right. So we'll let you be the scribe for that?
Yeah.
Okay, super, thank you. All right, so we go to number 7. Funds are available in the reserve are established. Whoever that was that called that one up. Section 8. I'm sorry, I'm moving my mouse and it's not me. Okay.
All right.
Delete.
I think the first one you were gonna get from the town accountant as we reworded. That's the same information.
Right.
It's just conveying that information to the select board or bringing it to their attention somehow.
Consulting with the town treasurer, collecting the town. Yeah, both of these appear to be town accountant responsibilities.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Yep.
So you're okay if they come out?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. How about the rest?
Yes.
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Right. April 1st. Well, we know what April 1st would have meant this year. I guess it's being able to live with that and what I would assume will be similar representations in ongoing years. The whole budgetary process is pretty arduous as it is, and I don't see the timelines that we experienced are going to be any better than.
They should be in a normal year.
Really?
Yes, they should.
Why do you feel that way? I mean, we were still in May dealing with issues. I mean, and that's almost 2 months later.
The bylaws say that we're supposed to have the annual town meeting the early part of May.
Correct.
So this April, I mean, because of COVID, we've had extenuating circumstances that the dates have been pushed off, and then therefore everything else got pushed off. But that would be a realistic date. It might even be a little bit tight for the May annual town meeting at which we look at the budget for the following year.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think, speaking for myself, and I'm sure that I'll have some backers to this, I think we were out straight in this whole process. And I think April 1, I don't see how that's going to change. From what I experienced in this process, I think April 1 is going to put us up against the wall.
So then you want to make it March 1?
I think that's that would be. I think that's contrary to what is in the town meeting bylaw. I have to go back and take a look at it.
Am I misunderstanding this? This is saying provide budget recommendations, which means we will have gone through all of our sit downs with everybody and come up with our recommendation for a budget, which we did, and we're still doing this in May this year. I'm certainly not saying it's going to be March 1st. I would say it's going to be later than April 1st. Unless I'm missing out on, and I'm thinking about something that's not what this is dealing with.
No, I think you're accurate, Ken, and
Yeah.
we would have been out of compliance this year.
Except this wasn't in effect. That's the only loophole. This is still a draft.
Right. But are we saying that this is this in writing somewhere else now that says it has to be April 1st?
I think it's in the town meeting bylaw.
I have to look at that.
I think it actually is the budget process bylaw. It specifically states the 1st of April.
Maybe that's where it is.
That's why we put that date in here, so they would correspond with each other, because we're talking about the budget process.
Okay, well, so if that's the case, then let's move.
I think part of the difficulty was the start of the budget process. I know the call went out in December, but perhaps going to the department heads and giving them until a February timeframe for turnaround of their budgets, perhaps that's too lengthy. You're already giving them all of their expenses, et cetera. They just have to fill in their 4 or 5 lines on a spreadsheet. It's not that difficult to do. So I would look at it, if the budget call goes out in December, the early part of December, then January is when we're starting the meetings with the department heads.
All right, I would say like mid-January is reason, it should be a normal time frame.
Yeah, I would do an earlier start time because again, nothing is changing. There's no new programs, no expansions, etc. It is the same services being provided. So there should be no difficulty doing a turnaround, 2-week turnaround, say, here are my budget figures, so we can then start meeting with folks. And that was the delay for us, was the people didn't give Ed the information he asked for in the correct format, nor the narratives. So now you're chasing after them to give us the information. There should be a set deadline, and January is when we start the departments. So we do January and February, and then we formulate during March or go back to the departments in March timeframe. So we're ready to roll to give our information on the 1st of April. If we actually stick to that and hold the feet to the fire and say, this is what we have to do, we can meet that 1st of April.
Well, I think most of the department heads were in compliance. I would agree with that. The biggest problem, I think, was the school.
Right. Well, they indicated that was a new board. They were not unaware. They said that, they were late. So I don't know how the information was passed along to them. But I would like to actually see, the notice goes out. January and February is meeting time with the Finance Committee. Get a hold of them to schedule your meeting. I don't think we should chase after people. That's my little 2 cents.
No, but at some point, somebody has to chase after them, and I think that's probably going to fall in our lap.
I know that, but like we started off with the...
No, it'll fall in my lap.
I know.
Well, we're the ones that we're the ones that are going to be responsible for April 1. Not you.
Well, no, you're responsible for providing your budget recommendations to the select board.
Right, but we won't have those if we haven't met with everybody.
Well, maybe your budget recommendation for those that haven't submitted in time is, guess what? Our recommendation is whether it's flat to last year or a 10% reduction or whatever.
And then that may mean something or may not to the select board, because it's
a motivating factor, I think, to the department heads.
Right. Okay. Then I would say leave it at April 1, because it's already written in stone, so to speak. It sounds like.
And I have a question on the budget process. Is there an actual calendar timeline with dates, with milestones that everyone has to do X amount by this particular date? Is there something like that the town has?
Other than when the requests go out, so I think I have to, shall we say, finite that process and put dates in it from there.
Because I think then it would be in our best interest to work on a calendar to say, here are the milestones, here's who has to do what by this time, and get that out there, articulate it to everyone so they're aware, so no one can say, well, I don't know. And then if they say, I don't know, then they're stuck with well, this is how we're looking at your budget, and this is what we recommended to the select board. And hopefully we don't have to do midnight meetings with the select board.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so are we basically saying that we're going to leave this as it is?
I say yes.
So when will the calendar for these departments be developed so they know when they're supposed to move?
It'll go out with a letter of the request, say, besides what it usually says, it says, here's the benchmarks.
And you usually send that out in early December, right, to the departments? Is that usually when you send out the call for the budget?
Yeah, I might even look at sending it out a little earlier than that, like November.
And is it a big deal with saying a 2-week turnaround to get their data on the spreadsheet, that you give them all the information and it's all the cells are already there, just plug in your figures?
I would say it's a good month process to get quotes and updates from some of our vendors, so.
Okay, let's look for it.
Okay. Well, we would, the committee would certainly benefit by your keeping their feet to the fire, so to speak. As would you. As would you.
Correct.
All right, so we're,
And maybe we even follow up and make it a little more, shall we say, regimented and pre-schedule their meetings with the finance committee.
I'd love to do that. Have a master calendar out there and a shared drive to say, here's some dates for you. Pick a date.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even do that. I would just say, here's your date.
Oh, there you go. I'd love that. That would be, you're ready or not ready. There you go.
Yep.
And I'll be here with a timer. Ding, time's up.
For me. We're on a roll.
okay. All right, we just finished that one.
And that's it.
That's it.
Change this one to just be B for duties.
All right, so I would ask the bylaw overseer, Francine, what's your take on this?
Yeah, this is fine. I mean, this is exactly the process. We need to rewrite it. You change it to conform to, you know, what you think best represents what works for your committee. And we'll finalize it, and then I'll get it to you again so that you see the final version. And then at that point in time, we'll send it on to the select board at some point in time that they can take a look at it. And then we get on a list based on available funding of when our attorneys can review it, because there's a cost associated. So that's kind of like a wait and see what we have in the budget or what have we used so far. And when we have some money, we'll get it there. They
Right.
get it back to us, and then we present it at town meeting the way we did yesterday.
Right. Okay.
But honestly, I think, you know, we'd like to move on this one because it has implications for next year,
Yep.
next school year for you guys. So
Yep.
I think this should be one of the first ones that we send off to the attorneys.
Okay. All right. I think we're done with that one. We don't need any votes or anything at this point because it's still out for review. Then I will move along to item 8B.
Can I just interrupt one more time?
Certainly.
I did send, at least I thought I did, I sent along with the draft of the finance committee, a draft of bylaws that are brand new on elected and appointed committees and boards and commissions, outlining, you know, each committee, outlining the responsibilities and the expected participation and so on and so forth. Did you guys get that?
I didn't get
Okay. If I send it to you, maybe you can take a look at it at your next meeting. Again, because it's generic. It covers all the committees, not just finance. But so some of the things wouldn't apply to you, but they have to be part of this particular document so that we have coverage for all of the different committees. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll send it to Mary so that whenever you can put it on your agenda, she'll have it to do. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 8B, an update on the town accountant appointment, it says. Ed?
You mean the town accountant recruitment?
Well, I'm just reading the item that's on, it says appointment. But
Okay.
I understand they're just, it's still being advertised, is that right?
It's still being advertised, and we're actually taking a look at some other alternatives. There are either CPA companies out there that will staff and serve as your town accountant, and there are also a couple of planning agencies that will staff and help you serve as your town accountant. So we're also looking into those.
And I just chimed in because I got that name originally of Eric Kinsher from Mary, and I contacted him, and he described what Ed is saying, that they function as an outsource to towns for accounting services. And so we talked about it, and then he also mentioned there's another firm closer to us named Mellinson, who happens to be our auditors, but they, perform the same accounting function for towns, and they do Hatfield and Hadley, according to Eric. It doesn't that he turned down the work. He just wanted to make a recommendation if we want to check someone else out. And so I let Ed know. And Ed, since there are our auditors, you gave them my name and phone number. They were supposed to call me, and I haven't heard back from them.
Yeah, I just did that over the weekend, so.
Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest?
If we actually chose them, they would have to give up our auditing function.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really for us to get another sense of what else is out there, what would they charge? Because sight unseen, and I'll share this with you, sight unseen, Eric gave me a figure of $70,000. So, they also, though, his firm also does Hampshire Regional, which is what? $7 million off of our budget. So I'm wondering with that, if there was some wiggle room in the feed and, we could talk about that once we get a little more information, maybe from Mellinson, how else we could look at this thing. That's all I have on it. I wish I had more, but waiting for this other call. And then Eric Kinsher, he wasn't pushing us off. He said he would be willing to come to do a Zoom presentation to us, and us meaning, I think, the select board and the finance committee, to just hear about the kinds of services and what we could expect. They also do a couple of other things. I mean, if we hired a town accountant who had no municipal experience, that they would be willing to kind of job coach this individual to get them up to speed, since their specialization is municipal accounting, which I thought was great. I didn't get a fee for that, but I mean, that's another option. So, I mean, if we look out there may be others yet, but we need to hear from this other firm closer to us. And I know we're saying, the conflict of interest with Mellinson because they're our auditors, but we have a 3-year contract with them.
Mm-hmm.
So
if we're looking to pay an accountant let's say, just for the sake of discussion, $54,000, what's the cost of benefits?
Well, that's
35% is the general percentage that I use with that.
So that would be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about liability, though? I mean, insurance and that kind of stuff. Would that be in the contract anyway? So.
That would be in the contract, correct?
Right. Well, I guess it's probably not out of line, dollar-wise anyways.
Mm-hmm. And they do some surrounding communities like Chester and Granby. I mean, they have, I think, over 30, somewhere between 30 and 40 municipalities across the state that they serve now. So I didn't call any of them to check on, their satisfaction with them. Once we get closer,
right,
that would be something that maybe That would definitely be something we would do.
Yeah. Okay. So Ed, in the meantime, Regina, even though she turned us down, it continues to be our interim accountant.
Correct.
Don't have any concerns about that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
She's still a very professional
Yep.
lady, so.
And what is the deal we have with the agency? I mean, is there a limit as to
No,
the engagement?
no, there's no limit on the engagement.
Okay. And when?
Although I will say the sooner we get to a permanent solution, the happier I'll be, so.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone. So how much time do we have to get our books in order so that they can be certified?
Oh, you mean close them?
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, you'd want to do that probably by October, November. I mean, I'd say October would be great.
Is that the normal process?
Pretty much so.
Timeline?
Yes.
Okay. So you can take an abnormal situation and make it normal.
Well, that's always the goal, isn't it?
We know about goals. Okay, so all right. Well, if we can't have a full-time accountant, how about an assistant?
And we're working on that. We haven't gotten very many applications for that position, but we have gotten a few, and we're working through that, and hopefully we'll be able to find somebody.
We have one that we need to talk and schedule reviews if we're going to move ahead. I'm only aware of one application. I hope there are more out there.
For the assistant?
Yes.
Are the qualifications anywhere near what we're looking for? Or are they just searching for the dollars?
I would say my preference would be to hopefully find someone with some additional qualifications.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I saw that was sort of related was she worked in payroll.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Town audit?
And we're moving forward with that, and I just set up some remote access for the auditors today to make it easier.
So it has begun?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It began a while ago.
Okay. Any idea as to when it might be completed?
I would hope that it'll be completed within the next month.
Okay. Do they make, sorry to belabor this, but do they make any comments about their abilities to perform the audit when we haven't got revenues beyond March 30?
Well, no, they're doing them for the previous fiscal year.
Oh, so they're not doing anything.
Not for 21.
Okay,
That'll occur in 22.
okay. Any other questions on the audit? All right. Any commentary on the annual town meeting?
Glad it was over in one day and we didn't have to go to another Saturday.
Right.
I have a question for Ed.
Yes.
If the override fails and we're trying to figure out how to manage everything we have to do with the base budget, the use of stabilization funds to fill in some of the gaps. I know operating we don't need to do anything like that, but the other stabilization accounts, would they be available for use if there's any dollars in there for other, like for instance, if there's any capital funds in there? I know there's established, but you wouldn't be able to use them even with a voters vote in a critical situation to fund a gap in a budget?
Operating stabilization or free cash,
Okay, so you can't use any of the other.
or some, new revenue source.
All right, thanks.
Is it likely, Ed, that we'll know how we could spend the rescue money? So that we might, that could be like a gap filler to some extent.
From what I've seen, I still don't see the rescue money filling in budgetary shortfalls. If we want to do vaccination or testing clinics or items like that, or like I say, the infrastructure changes, yes, but I have not seen anything in there that resembles, oh yeah, you can take this and use it to buy regular supplies or anything like that.
How much are we targeted to receive under the American Rescue Act?
So $645,000 for this year.
$645 for this year. Oh, okay.
And the total was 1.8 million, was that right?
I have not seen a confirmation of that. It was very interesting when they actually sent out the particular paperwork on this one, because all they mentioned is $645,000. So it's like, okay, well, have we been reduced from 1.8 to 645, or is 645 just for this year? I'm pretty sure 645 is just for this year, but I have not seen anything that says that, but in year 2, you shall be eligible to receive X amount of dollars.
Okay. Any other comments about the ATM? We'll see what happens on the 22nd.
Yes.
Any other business? All right, there being none, liaison reports, CPC and the Hampshire Regional School Committee. We have any issues there? PQB and the Select Board, I don't have any reports at this point. My apologies. It didn't. Norris School Committee and the Capital Improvement Committee.
Nothing new other than to say that the next Norris School Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 23rd of June, 2021. The agenda is to be determined. That's all I have.
Agenda will be determined as the results of the June 22 meeting. Election, I should say, sorry.
That's the case.
Yep. Okay, any other business? Pressing business that can't wait till next meeting?
I do have a question for Ed. I know we're reverting back to in-person meetings. So will the public still be able to access meetings via Zoom, or now does everyone have to go to the location of the meeting?
Good question.
Mary,
Yes.
what's Governor Baker going to do tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know. He didn't check with me today.
Well, you just asked me the same type of question. Unfortunately, I can't answer you because all that right now is in the hands of the legislature. The governor sent out a bill. The House has approved it. I mean, the Senate's approved it. The House is taking it up. There's the House Ways and Means, I believe, came up with something today which has got some different language to it than what the Senate approved. And the House is supposed to be in session tomorrow to take it up. But all of that has to go. It needs the House approval. If there is different language, they'll have to get together and iron out those differences. Then it'll have to go to the governor. So what we see for a final product, I'm not exactly sure. I think we will eventually see something in the next week to allow an extension of Zoom, but what that'll exactly look like, I'm not sure. So,
I saw Lindsay Sabadosa today. She's our state rep, and asked her that question, and she said that she thought that they would have something by Thursday.
Oh, good.
So in the meantime, we can't assume business as usual?
well, you can, but it's got to be in person. Tonight is the very last evening of Zoom because the emergency order, which is what allowed Zoom and remote meetings, evaporates or expires at 12:01 a.m. tomorrow. So.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned. Is that what? That's what we're saying, huh?
Yeah. Stay tuned. They got everybody guessing.
So the FinCom meetings, where do those normally occur?
Right here in the room I'm in right now.
Oh, I'm so glad.
For the in-person portion, yes.
And where is that? Sorry, I've never attended one, so I don't know. Where is it located? It's at the town hall?
I'll send you out some latitude and longitude coordinates.
You're doing that linear thing again?
I need them also.
Yes, I'm in the second floor meeting room of the town hall right now.
Okay.
Well, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 12th. So assumedly we'll hear.
Well, you'll be meeting at least once and maybe twice before then because of the departmental transfers. And and the very last evening for those approvals, I'm going to have to double check. I believe it's like December 9th. It might be the 10th, but I'll take a look.
All right. So any visitors will be coming to your office for our meeting. Is that correct?
The second floor conference room.
Second floor conference room. Yes.
Oh, you're in the conference room. You're not in.
Yeah, not my office, but the second floor meeting room.
Okay. Okay.
And if any of you would like to pre-look at it, because it has been 15 months of COVID and not open to the public or whatever, but starting Wednesday morning, we should be back to open normal hours Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4:30 to the public.
But that room has not been open.
Well, none of town hall has been open to the public, so yeah.
Right. Okay.
Will masks be required indoors? How will that work? Do you have to show proof that you've been vaccinated, or?
Well, you can say it two ways. Masks will be optional, or masks not required but welcome.
And we're having an election in person next week.
On the 22nd, yes.
Right.
So there's, I mean, what's going on about information? Same thing, mask optional.
Correct.
Okay. Because you have a lot of people in there.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. That work, you know, emergency order as of, like I say, 12:01 a.m. tomorrow is the last piece, and the governor had removed basically all the other requirements on May 29th.
Return to normal, abnormal.
Well, yeah.
The new normal.
And I don't even know if it's a new normal, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay. Then, as I said, the next scheduled regular meeting is Monday, July 12th. Location to be determined at 5:30. Entertain a motion to adjourn, unless there's anything else.
I had a really quick question, just a general question regarding terms.
Yeah.
So for those who have a one-year term, and if you're not reelected, is the last meeting technically June 30th? Is that the end of the term? How does that work?
It would be basically June 22nd.
Okay.
The successor would actually have to be sworn into office, so it could be, depending on how quickly they get in to be sworn in, could be the 23rd or 24th. But in essence, it would basically end at that upcoming election.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Rachel,
Rachel.
Barbara, aye.
Mary, I.
Ken, aye. Thank you, folks.
Thank you all very much. Have a good rest of the evening.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yes.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you once again. Take good care.
We'll see you.
Good night.
Bye.